All right, we are working. Okay. Good afternoon, morning, evening, for wherever you are in this beautiful, beautiful planet we call Earth. Again, my name is Diallo, and this morning, evening, or noon, we're going to be doing current events. Okay, so things that have happened in the last week in the news that we may or may have not heard of or heard about. And this is for today, Monday, November 9th, 2020. Who would have thought that, huh? Who would have thought we'd ever make it to 2020? Man. So we are reading from the East Bay Times. For those of you who do not know, that is the East Bay. So basically from Oakley, Brentwood area, all the way down to Oakland and everywhere in between. Okay. So what we are going to do is going to go over some of these and look, but we always end the current events with fun stuff. So we always end it with Today in History and News of the Weird and the Advice section, which are always fun to hear. All right, so we're going to look at the East Bay Times. So here we go. So we all know this weekend, well, last week was voting, and this weekend they finally figured out that Joe Biden won the election. So Joe Biden is a president-elect, meaning he's going to be the next president of the United States is. Do you know who his vice president is? His vice president is going to be Kamala Harris, right? She's an Indian and of Jamaican descent. By Indian, I mean from India. Her mom was from India, her dad's Jamaican. She's going to be the vice president. Or in my eyes, the president, but that's another story for another day. So let's look at some of these. So we got the election aftermath. Let's see. So president-elect begins transition process despite no sign of cooperation from Trump. And what that means is, mathematically, the election's over. But Mr. Donald Trump believes that he was cheated. The only reason he lost is because everybody cheated. So he's gone to lawyers and done what he legally has the right to do, so they can do recounts in certain states or recount the ballots in other states. So that's what we're up down to. So Donald Trump is yet to concede the election. Says President-elect Joe Biden signaled on Sunday he plans to move quickly to build out his government, focusing first on the raging pandemic that will likely dominate the early days of his administration. Biden named a former Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, and a former Food and Drug Administration Commissioner, David Kessler, as co-chairs of a coronavirus working group set to get started, with other members expected to be announced today. So basically what he did is name these people to a coronavirus task force. So what that means is by the time he gets in office, the virus in itself is going to be going on a downhill by January. There'll be a huge spike, but it's going to start going down because more and more people got it. And then I'd say by this time next year, it's going to be not because we have a vaccine that's going to come out in December. So it's going to be more likely that it's going to be, in my eyes, pretty cleared up by next year at this time. So Biden's going to get all the credit for that. That's usually what happens. So transition team officials said that also this week, Biden will launch his agency review teams, the group of transition staffers that the group of transition staffers that have access to key agencies in the current administration to ease the transfer of power. The teams will collect and review information such as budgetary and staffing decisions, pending regulations, and other work in progress from current staff at the departments to help Biden's team prepare to transition. White House officials would not comment on whether they would cooperate with Biden's team on the review. People want the country to move forward, said Kate Bedingfield, Biden deputy campaign manager, in an interview on NBC's Meet the Press. And see Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris have the opportunity to do work to get the virus under control and to get our economy back together. Yeah, interesting. So here's another one about the election. Let's see here. That was kind of interesting, huh? Yeah, that was kind of interesting. Let's see what else we got here. I usually do this one last, but we're going to keep it that way. Here's a not so good one. Okay. We'll read that one later. So this is from the weather from around the country. Storm Eta strengthening into hurricane toward Florida tip. Uh-oh. A strengthening tropical storm Eta sliced across Cuba on Sunday and was aimed at the southern tip of Florida, where officials braced for a storm that could hit a hurricane force after leaving scores of dead and over 100 missing in Mexico and Central America. The U.S. National Hurricane Center in Miami declared hurricane and storm surge warnings for the Keys from Ocean Reef to dry Tortoises, including Florida Bay, with the storm expected to reach the area by Sunday night or early Monday. Florida officials closed beaches, ports, and COVID testing sites, shut down public transportation, and urged residents to stay off the street. Several shelters also opened in Miami and the Florida Keys for residents in mobile homes in low-lying areas. Because for people in low-lying areas and mobile homes, those are the first places to go. When a hurricane comes, it floods and blows those places right out. Sad. Several shelters, Broward County also shut down in-person schooling today, and Miami seemed poised to do the same. Eta has a maximum sustained wind of 65 miles an hour on Sunday evening, and it was centered north of Cuba, about 65 miles east of Marathon, Florida, and about 90 miles southeast of Miami. It was moving northwest at 14 miles an hour, which doesn't seem very fast, but that's actually do a lot of damage. If it's slower like that, it could actually cause more damage because it just rains. If it's slow, it just rains and rains and rains and rains and rains. It doesn't move, which could actually be worse. The storm swelled rivers and flooded coastal zones in Cuba, where 25,000 have been evacuated, but there were no reports of any deaths. Eta hit Cuba even as searchers in Guatemala were still digging for people believed buried by a massive rain-fueled landslide. So all those landslides in Central America, where they have the rainforest, those landslides are happening now because there's no more rainforest. So in these towns where there used to be a rainforest around, on hills, all those trees and plants and everything, they would soak up all that rainwater, they would soak it up. And all the roots were in there so the hill couldn't slide. But since they've cut down all those trees and everything else, now that water cannot be absorbed by the hill. Or if there's no plants, the plants can't absorb it. So what happens is the hill just gets more and more saturated and just falls down. And that's all because of man-made problems. We caused that because we cut down all the trees in that area. That's how important a lot of these trees are. There's trees, especially in this area too. If you were to cut down all the trees on the hills those houses are, and there was a big rainstorm, the whole hillside would come down. And all those houses would because the water has nowhere to go. Authorities on Sunday raised the known death toll there to 27 from 15 and said more than 100 people were missing in Guatemala, many of them in the landslide in San Cristobal Verapaz. So all those people who are in the landslide, they're not going to be found. By the time they find them, their bodies are going to be all stiff in the mud. They're under mud. If they survive that under like 15 feet of mud, praise thee. If somebody survived that. Some 60,000 people have been evacuated in Guatemala. At least 20 people also were reported dead in southern Mexico, and local officials in Honduras reported 21 dead, though the National Disaster Agency had confirmed only 8. Pope Francis on Sunday spoke about the population of Central America hit by a violent hurricane, which has caused many victims and huge damage, worsened as well by the already difficult situation due to the coronavirus. Speaking to a faithful gathering in St. Peter's Square, Francis prayed that the Lord welcome the deceased, comfort their families, and sustain all those so tried, as well as all those who are doing their best to help them. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency Saturday for 8 counties at the end of the state as ETA approached, urging residents to stock up on supplies. South Florida started emptying ports and a small number of shelters opened in Miami and the Florida Keys for residents and mobile homes in low-lying areas. That's scary to be in a hurricane like that. I've been in tornadoes, never been in a hurricane, but I've been in a couple tornadoes. Those were scary because you can hear the tornado coming and it sounds like a freight train. Like when you get up to a train track crossing and that big train goes by, that's exactly what it sounds like. And you can feel it coming. You can feel the pressure in the house or wherever you are changing. You feel it in your ears. It's really weird. And it's really scary. Okay, so what we got here. All right, let's look at some local news here. Oh, so here's an interesting one. Because there's so many kids that are not in school, there's been a fear that all of our kids are going to start getting fat. Right? Because all they're doing is sitting at home. They can't go play with their friends. Well, they can't go play with their friends, which I'm sure a lot of them do. But they're not supposed to go play with their friends because of the virus. And so they're just sitting inside playing video games, or, if they're actually at school, they're looking on the computer and sitting down. So how PE teachers are trying to get students moving during the pandemic. Keeping children active is crucial for their health, educators insist. You think that's true? You think exercise is good for kids' health? Do you believe that? Yeah, it's good. Exercise keeps them active and it keeps them not being fat. So you got a bunch of little piggies running around.
Boys.
Yep, boys got to get out.
Yeah.
They got to get that temper, rage, whatever boys have. They got to get it out somehow. Yep. All right. This is by Carolyn Jones. Imagine trying to work out in a crowded living room with no exercise equipment besides rolled up socks and soup cans. For many students in California, that's what physical education class looks like these days. Since campuses close in March, PE teachers are scrambling for creative ways to keep students physically active with no gymnasiums, sports fields, or playgrounds at a time when experts say students' physical and mental health is paramount. PE has been one of the most challenging subjects to teach online. Teachers are working incredibly hard, said Patricia Supe, president of the California Association of Health and Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. But the irony is, students need PE now more than ever, not just for physical health, but for mental health as well. She's very right. Even before the pandemic, children in California suffered from higher than average rates of obesity. According to the 2019 data compiled by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, 17.1% of children ages 10 to 17 in California are obese, compared to 15.5% nationwide. Now, with children spending more time in front of screens and less time engaged in physical activity, the obesity rate is expected to jump in 2020. So yeah, schools are required to provide physical education while campuses are closed, but in March, Governor Gavin Newsom waived the minimum number of PE minutes schools had to offer. Previously, the law required that the students receive 200 minutes of physical education every 10 days in elementary school and 400 minutes every 10 days in middle school and high school. Most California schools are offering some sort of virtual PE at least a few hours a week, Supe said. The challenge The challenges are many. Some students live in neighborhoods where it's not safe to run or walk outside. Others live in apartments with no yards. In many cities, parks are closed due to the pandemic, and in much of California, extreme heat or smoke has limited students' access to outdoors. Regardless of other issues. A survey of 489 PE teachers in California conducted this fall by SUPE's organization found other obstacles as well. Students often turn off their cameras so their teachers can't see if the students are exercising. Many districts have eliminated PE as a standalone class or made it an elective. And teachers are worried about liability if the student has injured themselves while exercising at home. That's a big one. You're doing a PE class online and the kid falls and breaks his head, and then you're gonna get blamed as a teacher and you weren't even there. Yeah. Despite these hurdles, PE teachers are trying to keep students active and physically healthy during the pandemic. For starters, they've designed workouts that can be done safely indoors using common household objects that can be fashioned into exercise equipment. A few examples include using water bottles for soccer goals, letting students pick their favorite music to dance to, calisthenics activities that can be done in one place, using soup cans or milk cartons as weights, which I've advocated, yoga. Yoga is something you can do at home in a very small space. Running up and down the stairs. That's good until your parents get, stop running up and down the stairs. Another one, using rolled up socks for balls. Where possible, teachers are urging students to go for bike rides, hikes, jogs, or walks, logging their distance and time. Other teachers are distributing basic equipment for students to use at home, such as jump ropes, hula hoops, balls, and stretch bands, like the stretch bands we use today, right? So how about that? That's crazy. It's gonna be so hard to be a PE teacher now. Oh, so difficult to be a PE teacher. Okay, so let's see what else we got in the local news. We're gonna look at our advice pages. So we got advice and Miss Manners. So we got Ask Amy in the advice column. But first we're gonna read Miss Manners, okay, by Judith Martin is Miss Manners. So comparison is the thief of joy. What do you think that means? It's jealousy. If you're comparing everything you have to somebody else's stuff, that's jealousy. That's one of the 10 commandments, right? Can't have jealousy. So dear Miss Manners, all I see on social media lately are photos of awesomeness, beautiful meals, precious kids, exciting outdoorsy vacations with ecstatic partners. It depresses me, though I'm very fortunate in a lot of ways. Where are you good? Oh, it's right there. Trust me, they're watching it for you. It's not going anywhere, Miss Audrey. Though I'm very fortunate in a lot of ways, I'm lonely. I live alone and haven't socialized in person since March. Many more people, of course, are in much more dire situation than I. Showing off strikes me as insensitive. Yes, I know I should get off social media, but I get neighborhood news that way. Plus, I want to know if anyone I care about needs help or someone to talk to. That's happened a few times during the pandemic. So this lady's problem is, because of the pandemic, she spent the whole time since March at home by herself. And then she sees people posting on social media that they went on, this outdoorsy vacation, or they made this special food, or they have amazing kids, and it gets her depressed, which is actually very true. Social media is a clinical depressant. What happens is, let's say you want a couple of your friends, you see pictures of them in Hawaii, where they're smiling, and like my friend and his girlfriend in Hawaii smiling, oh, look how happy they look. And it gets you jealous because like, man, I wish I was there. What it doesn't show is that it shows the pictures of them being happy, but it doesn't show behind the camera. It doesn't show that the whole entire trip they were arguing with each other, right? And they were pissed off and arguing at each other. So it makes it look like they have this perfect relationship, when in reality, they probably don't. Yeah. I think it's tacky to post nonstop photos of perfect, adorable awesomeness during a pandemic. Do you agree, or do you think I'm just being bitter and jealous? So Miss Manners replies, gentle reader, when you were a tad, meaning a tadpole, a little kid, did your parents explain to you that advertisements should not be taken as literal truth? And have you not discovered that much of what people post are advertisements for themselves? But suppose it is all true, and many people are thriving in these times, leading glorious lives despite the pandemic. Do you really wish your friends ill? Do you really wish your friends ill instead? Miss Manners has never understood why misery should want company. Surely misery should prefer a bit of cheer to lighten its gloom. In any case, it will never lighten up. It will never lighten if you keep comparing yourself to others, because you can always find someone who is richer, better looking, smarter, or better, or eating better meals. Please stop thinking of it as a contest. That's great advice, right? Stop looking at your life and comparing it to other people's lives to make it a contest. Because no matter how rich, successful, or anything you are, guess what? There's always somebody richer. There's always somebody that looks better than you. There's always somebody who has a better job. There's always somebody better at you than sports or anything, right? So you can never be the best at everything. It's got to focus on one thing and try to be the best at that instead of everything, right? Like you got Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was arguably the best basketball player ever. Did that make him a good banker? Did that make him a good cook? No, right?
Where is he now?
He's retired, living life. He's got a new wife, just living life. Here's another one from Miss Manners. Dear Miss Manners, I wrote my grandmother a letter, but wasn't sure how to address it. I have always called her Gigi and started the letter as such, but I wasn't sure what to put on the envelope. I ended up just writing her full name out, but it seems wrong. Should I do Mrs. Full Name? Should I do Mrs. Full Name? For reference, my grandfather died last year, and their letters usually had a return address of Mr. and Mrs. Grandfather's name. So the response by Miss Manners, gentle reader. That you wrote your grandmother an actual letter instead of texting her shows that you are sensitive to very conventions and expectations. So while your grandmother doubtlessly treasured your letter, Miss Manners is glad you asked. Honorifics should be used on envelopes, and widowhood does not change the lady's form of address. If your grandmother had previously been addressed as Miss Hilda Newberry, that would still be right. But as she used Mrs. Orville Newberry, that is still the way to address her. So plain and simple. All right, now let's look at our Ask Amy column. Ask Amy. I like these ones. Your purse is sitting right there in the chair. It's right there. You see it? Come back in here for me. Audrey, you can bring your purse in here if you want. You didn't bring your purse, Amy. No, you don't bring a purse. All right. Here you go. Now you're happy. All right. So advice. The past is this year's repast. Dear Amy, as Thanksgiving approaches and we are setting a table for 3 instead of 14, I took a moment for a reality check. I remembered when my daughters were in college and clued me into the Wednesday night tradition of going to a bar to fortify oneself for the strain of being with all these relatives. I remembered those disastrous Thanksgiving with the barbecue turkey that meant no gravy for Grandpa's mashed potatoes, or the year the dining room table, extended with all of its leaves, started to sag in the middle, and my brother dove under to support it while yelling for sea clamps. So one year they overcooked the turkey. Another year, the big table that, you know how you extend the table when you put the leaves in it? It broke with all the food on it. I remember the horrendous travel problems, like when my sister was 5 hours late because of traffic in in the pre-cell phone days, and my mother suggested calling the state police every 10 minutes for accident reports. Perhaps it will be a good year to quietly laugh at those Thanksgivings past and accept the pause in the tradition this year. Perhaps reflecting with gratitude about each person you are missing will be like palate cleansing course in the meal of life. Keep trusting that there will be a bigger turkey next year. And thank you, Amy, for all the wisdom and compassion you dish out. Let's look at that. Dear Thankful, your beautiful note perfectly conveys the complicated feelings many Americans are having this Thanksgiving. Your email also arrived in the morning of my Aunt Jean's death. Because of the pandemic, her daughters could only visit her through a window until hospice care liberated them and they could be with her in person at the very end. Aunt Jean was the last of the legendary mighty queens of Freeville, 4 fierce and funny women whose influence shows up in their columns regularly. Aunt Jean always made the gravy. Yes, the groaning feast table was much lighter this year, but I hope your message will inspire families to count our blessings and remember with joy those who can't be with us, and promises to put aside our differences when we finally feast together in person. This year, as I do every year, I will be at the little church in my hometown, cooking and serving a Thanksgiving meal to people who would not have one otherwise. We're doing a takeout service and I'll be making the gravy. So Thanksgiving, she's gonna be volunteering at a homeless shelter. Right, that's beautiful. You know what, I might do that this year. Oh, that's a good thought. You know what? That's a good thought. I'm going to actually write that down right now. I'm going to make a note to myself. Thank you for that, Annie. Thank you for that, Audrey, as well. I'll make a note of that. Compose to me. Do volunteer work on Thanksgiving. All right. So paste. Then I'm going to email it to them and email it to myself. That's what I'm going to do. Good. Email it to myself. Perfect. Now I got it. That's excellent. All right. So let's look at the last advice from Amy. Let's look at the last advice from Amy. Let's see here. Last advice from Amy says, Dear Amy, curious in Silver Springs, Maryland, wondered why people consume alcohol knowing that it is a dangerous drug. Thank you for standing up for legal age people's rights to consume alcohol safely. Safe drinker. Okay, let's look at the response. Dear drinker, alcohol is indeed a dangerous drug causing untold damage to people around the world. But yes, it can be consumed safely. That's so random. All right, so we're gonna do our cool down phase now. And we're gonna start off with some sad news in our cool down stage. So who here has ever watched Jeopardy? The TV show Jeopardy. Who here has ever watched that? Everybody. You've seen it, Jose. Everybody's seen Jeopardy sometime in the last 30 years. Everybody's seen it because it's been on for 30 years. So this is a sad. Alex Trebek. You know who Alex Trebek is?
Yeah.
He's the host of Jeopardy, right? Well, Alex Trebek, a long-running Jeopardy host, dies. Yeah, I know. So let's see here. This is from Los Angeles. Alex Trebek, who presided over the beloved quiz show Jeopardy for more than 30 years with dapper charm and a touch of schoolmaster strictness, died Sunday. He was 80. Yep, 80. Trebek, who announced in 2019 that he had advanced pancreatic cancer, stage 4, died at his Los Angeles home surrounded by family and friends. Jeopardy Studio Sony said. The Canadian-born host, who made a point of informing fans about his health directly, spoke in a calm, even tone as he revealed his illness and a hope for a cure in a video posted on March 6, 2019. In the video, Trebek said he was joining the 50,000 other Americans who receive such a diagnosis each year, and that he recognized that the prognosis was not encouraging. But Trebek said he intended to fight it and keep working, even joking that he needed to beat the disease because his Jeopardy contract ran for 3 more years. Less than a week later, he opened the show with a message acknowledging the outpouring of kind words and prayers he had received. Thanks to the believe it or not, hundreds of thousands of people who have sent in tweets, texts, emails, cards, and letters wishing me well, Trebek said. I'm one lucky guy. The program takes weeks of shows in advance, and the remaining episodes with Trebek will air through December 25th, a Sony spokeswoman said. Messages of grief and respect for the former contestants, celebrities, and the wider public quickly followed news of his loss. Alex wasn't just the best ever at what he did, he was also a lovely and deeply decent man, and I'm grateful for every minute I got to spend with him, tweeted Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings. Thinking today about his family and his Jeopardy family, which in a way included millions of us. It was one of the great privileges of my life to spend time with this courageous man while he fought the battle of his life. He will never be replaced in our hearts, Alex. James Paul Hauser, another Jeopardy star, posted on Twitter. John Legend tweeted that he was obsessed with Jeopardy as a nerdy kid growing up in Ohio. I loved and revered Alex Trebek since I can remember. What an iconic career. They would answer by saying, what is or who is? Trebek, who became the host in 1984, was a master of format, engaging in friendly banter with contestants, appearing genuinely pleased when they answer correctly, and at the same time, moving the game along in a brisk nonsense fashion whenever people struggled for answers. He never pretended to know the answers himself, if he really didn't, deferring the show to the experts to decide whether a somewhat vague answer had come close enough to be counted as correct. The show was the brainstorm of Julian Griffin, wife of the late talk show host entrepreneur Merv Griffin, who said she suggested to him one day that he create a game show where people were given the answers. Jeopardy debuted on NBC in 1964 with Art Fleming as MC was an immediate hit. It lasted until 1975, then was revived in syndication with Trebek. Long identified by a full head of hair and trim mustache, though in 2001 he startled viewers by shaving his mustache completely on a whim. Trebek was more than qualified for the job, having started his game show career as Reach for the Top in his native country of Canada. Jeopardy made him famous. He won 5 Emmy Awards as its host, including 1 last June, and received stars on both the Hollywood and Canadian Walk of Fame. In 2012, the show won a prestigious Peabody Award. Although many viewers considered him one of the key reasons for the show's success, Trebek himself insisted he was only there to keep things moving. I'm introduced as the host of Jeopardy, not the star, he said in a 2012 interview. My job is to provide the atmosphere and assistance to the contestants to get them to perform at their very best, he explained. And if I'm successful doing that, I will be perceived as a nice guy and the audience will think of me as being a bit of a star, which is exactly what happened, right? I mean, just a beautiful human being. Yes, we're almost done. We're almost done. We got a couple more things. No, it's almost lunchtime. Okay. Yep. So we're almost done here. Okay. Now, I always like to read Animal Life too. This first one is another advice column. Okay. It's about animals. Dear Joanne, We have a rat problem in our detached garage and backyard. We had chickens for many years, which started the problem more than 15 years ago. An electronic zapper worked for a while, but it cost a high price, $50 each, and only worked for a short while. We haven't had chickens for 4 years, and still the rats are here. The other day, I saw one climb a plant and get the bird feeder in broad daylight. Ooh. We have used traps for many years, but my husband is tired of doing the job of the rat removal and trap replacement for so many years. He paid a pest control company a lot of money a few years ago to make sure they were out of our house. Do you have any suggestions of how to get rid of rats? We hate to do poison, as we know it will poison anything that eats the rat. My husband is tired of trapping and dealing with the dead rats, and we can't afford to buy an electronic shocker. Can you please give us any other solutions getting rid of the rats? Can you think of any solutions to get rid of rats? Traps? What about you, Audrey? Do you have any solutions to get rid of rats?
Yeah, put some poison on some cheese and put it down.
That works, but with poison, what we found out in the last few years is that poison is actually horrible. Because what happens if once you give the rat poison, let's say it runs away and then a bird eats it. Now the bird is poisoned, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's say the bird dies, and let's say another scavenger, a rat, a raccoon, eats the bird. Now they have poison, right? And it just spreads.
Take some rat poison down and put it in your house with the rats out.
Yeah, you got to keep the rats in.
And they eat it, they go on.
They like it, huh? So let's look at today in history. So again, today is November 9th, 2020. Wow. So today in history. Today in history, 1620. So November 9th, 1620. Passengers and crew of the Mayflower sighted Cape Cod. Remember the Mayflower? The Mayflower was the first English ship or first European ship to come to America, settlers, right? They landed on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. What famous person said that? Malcolm X. Malcolm X. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. Meaning that the people who landed on Plymouth Rock went to Africa and stole us and brought us back. So technically they landed on us. Okay, November 9th, 1938. 1938, November 9th. Nazis looted and burned synagogues as well as Jewish-owned stores and houses in Germany and Austria in a deliberate persecution that became known as Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht. What do you think Kristallnacht means? It means night of the broken glass. So what the Nazis did, because they didn't like Jews and gypsies and all that, there was a huge Jewish population. So what they did on November 9th of 1938 is the Nazis, the military wing, went through Berlin, all these big cities, and all the Jewish-owned stores. They broke the windows and they looted everything, stole everything, or lit them on fire, burned them down. If they were by themselves, they would burn them down. And Jewish synagogues, they burned all those down too. Just because they don't like Jews. Okay? Crazy. So November 9th, 1976, the UN General Assembly approved resolutions condemning apartheid in South Africa, including one characterizing the white-ruled government as illegitimate. So who was a big part of getting apartheid removed in South Africa? Nelson Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela went to prison for fighting against basically the white man, right? Because the English came and they stole everything from the Native Africans, right? They're basically, the Africans were told, the South African blacks were told that they were lesser than. And even to this day, it's still, to this day, actually, you have the opposite. You have the Native Africans who are actually going and forcefully evicting white South Africans from their own properties. There's even been instances where you had, black militias going out and killing white farmers and taking their land. It's brutal. So November 9th, 1989, communist East Germany threw open its borders, allowing citizens to travel freely to West as joyous Germans danced atop the Berlin Wall. So in this day, in 1989, was the fall of the Berlin Wall. Was it? No. Let's make sure. The fall of the Berlin Wall. That rhymes. Fall of the Berlin date. Let's see what date the Berlin Wall was. So yeah, November 9th of 1989, the Berlin Wall came down. Do you remember where you were then? When the Berlin Wall came down and communism was basically dead? Ooh. I know where I was. I was 3 years old. I had just turned 3.
Yes.
Yep, I had just turned 3. All right, last one, news of the weird. So news of the weird, and the title of this is called Going for a Spin. Firefighters with Essex County in England Fire and Rescue Services were called to a laundromat in Epping on October 30th, where 3 young men had been trapped inside an industrial-sized tumble dryer. 2 had climbed all the way into the dryer, while the third got his ankles trapped in the door. Firefighters, police, and medical helicopter and the ambulance service employed a lot of heavy equipment to free the men. Watch manager Glenn Jackson told Sky News no word on what they were looking for in the dryers. So huge industrial-sized dryers. These 3 guys got stuck in them at a laundromat. What were they doing? Like what were you stealing something? Like what were you doing to get stuck? Maybe I bet you it was a joke. It was a dare. Like I dare you. I bet you we can't fit in there. And they got in there and they got stuck. Luckily nobody turned it on. Be 3 fried men, huh? All right, ladies and gentlemen. So again, this morning in Walnut Creek at 7:15, guess what the temperature was? 24 degrees. Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Diallo here at the ASEP Center in Berkeley for our weekly current event Mondays. So thank you again on this lovely Monday, November 9th, 2020. I will see you next time. Have a beautiful, wonderful day and stay safe.